I think I get about a 2-hour drive where I'm going to get a car rental and then do another 14-hour drive. That's the way it is.
Yep, everybody's affected, even members of Congress earlier this hour trying to get out of the convention in Milwaukee and then having to drive because of this massive tech outage, right, that we've been talking about, all the flights that have been canceled and people stuck at airports. I mean, the bottom line here, and it's having a big impact, is you have a faulty software update coming in from a cybersecurity firm, and it knocked out a number of businesses in transportation, healthcare, systems around the world in a number of industries. More than 2,000 flights canceled in the U.S., and there have been a bunch overseas as well. Cybersecurity firm is called Crowdstrike, as we mentioned earlier. It's working with customers to restore the affected systems, but it's taken a long time. And I want to bring in Michael Chertoff on this. He's, of course, the former Secretary of Homeland Security. And our guest earlier, Mr. Secretary, who's an expert in cybersecurity, was saying to us something to the effect of, hey, listen, we better learn from something like this. They say it's not an attack, but we better learn because our enemies, they'll be learning. And even though this is not an attack, they might pick something up. But what do you make of it?
Well, I think we've seen in the past that our adversaries do this kind of thing. They try to get embedded deeply within a network. And one way they do that is they compromise a firm that provides a software management service or security service to a lot of customers. And that effectively gives the bad guys a skeleton key they can use to get into any of the customers' databases. Now, in this case, it does not appear to be a bad actor. It appears to be a problem with the software update that was sent to a number of companies, including Microsoft, that wound up embedding within the network at a very deep level a flawed software package.
Right.
And that was basically shutting down the system. So this was an accident, but the fundamental issue that the supply chain of software and hardware is a critical entry point for security is just underscored by this event.
How would you describe how vulnerable we are? I mean, the technology has advanced so much since your years in government. You would like to think that the readiness is also advancing, but now you deal with it in the private sector. What are we ready for? What are we vulnerable to?
Well, I think this is an important question. I mean, obviously, we've made progress in security and understanding the kinds of threats that are out there, but that's been outpaced by the degree of interdependence of increasingly complicated IT networks and systems. So that it's not just a question of protecting your own network, but every entity or group that interacts with the network for security, for providing software, for providing hardware, all of those become potential entry points for a problem. So now the landscape you have to defend and be concerned about is much broader than would have been the case 10 years ago.
Is there more the government can do? Again, that the guest, Katie Arrington from the firm Exeger that I mentioned earlier, was saying that there should be more we should be able to do, or the government should be able to do more audits, for example. I didn't understand that that wasn't going on, but she says it's not and it should be. I mean, what's the government role in all this?
I think the government's role is to elevate the standards and the requirements. Some of that will be through disclosure. Some of it will be through auditing or self-auditing, in much the same way that when you're preparing food and you're selling it in the marketplace, you're required to meet certain standards of food safety. We need to increasingly require standards of computer safety and cyber safety to be incorporated in the responsibility of vendors who are providing software and hardware.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.